Yeah, show me, buddy. I've yet to have someone hear this presentation and walk out going, boy, that was a waste of my time. I can't believe it. So it's really important that we pass on this information. A little pitch for the Red Cross. The Red Cross is an amazing organization. What we do is unbelievable. And you look at any disaster, particularly the ones here for the fires, and who's always there? The Red Cross, because we can set up shelters. I'll tell you a funny story. Because I was not sure that all the shelters in Los Angeles were Red Cross shelters. They weren't really promoting them as Red Cross. We do a terrible job of promoting ourselves in terms of the good work we do. Anyways, they told me there was one shelter in Pasadena. The city of Pasadena thought, we're going to do our own shelter. No problem. Within 24 hours, they were on their knees crying and begging, please help us. There were 800 people that showed up. They had no idea what to do. So that's where the Red Cross comes in, and 95% of what we do is volunteer. So today we're going to talk about disasters. We're going to talk primarily about earthquakes. For those of you that know, we live in earthquake country. Lucy Jones, who's the foremost expert on earthquakes, predicts that we are due for a big one. They don't know if it'll happen tomorrow or 100 years from now, but they do believe it'll happen in the near future. That's all they can tell us. So all we can do is be prepared. We're also going to talk about home fires, which is the most disasters that we respond to at the Red Cross. And I'm going to tie into what happened in the Palisades and Altadena because it's so timely. And the final thing on a personal note is I have friends, which probably all of us do know, that lost their homes or had to evacuate. And friends of ours bought their home in the Palisades in the 70s. They both worked at UCLA. They were retired, and they heard the warning to get out, and they did. They thought it was a precautionary measure. So they left their home with just their clothes in their car, and their house was leveled. So I tell you that only because I want you to be prepared. Don't let that happen to you. It's very easy to be prepared. And one of the things we're going to talk about over and over again until it sinks in is someone may show up at your door and tell you you have 5 minutes to get out, and you may never get back, okay? So just know that I'm not the Grim Reaper, but I want to give you the information. And so what we're going to do is we're going to figure out in those 5 minutes what's the best use of our time. I can assure you the best use of our time is not packing clothes or important stuff. That stuff we're going to do in advance so we're ready, okay? So here we go. Oh, how many of you were here during the Northridge earthquake? Raise your hand. Oh boy, okay. How many during the Sylmar earthquake in 71? Okay. Long Beach, 1933? No, you're too young. Those are the real big events. We did have one in Ridgecrest a couple of years ago, but Ridgecrest is so lightly populated that it really wasn't considered a big event. But those three events are really the big ones over the years. Northridge I'm going to talk about because I live in Sherman Oaks, not far. Sherman Oaks, Encino, Tarzana got hit worse than anywhere. And the reason was an earthquake is like a pebble in a pond. You drop the pebble, the waves go out. And in the case of Northridge, what they did is they hit the Santa Monica Mountains and they went back. So we got hit twice. Okay, so for Northridge, for me, I was the most scared I've ever been in my lifetimes too, and I was prepared. So I just want, for those of you who live through Northridge, you know the terror that can happen in the middle of the night when you're woken up. And for me, I'm from Detroit, so I didn't know from big earthquakes. And when I saw my bedroom shaking so violently that I was wondering, how is this building still standing? That was my big memory at the time, was I cannot believe this is still standing. And the noise was deafening. So here we go. I made this little chart about what is a big earthquake and what is not. So Northridge was a 6.8. It lasted 18 seconds at 4:38 in the morning. Okay, imagine in Sumatra in 2004, which is in the Indian Ocean, there was an earthquake that was a 9.1 that lasted almost 10 minutes. Now, an earthquake, the way we measure it on the Richter scale, a 6.8 to a 6.9 is 10 times more powerful. So imagine a 6.8 to a 9.1. It's unfathomable. So we're going to hopefully not have that, but when they say a big one here, they mean an over 7.0 earthquake. So here's the question. Have we planned for the following? Let's start with, have we planned for a delay in help? Let me be the bearer of bad news. If you call the fire department or ambulance when there's an earthquake, they will not come because their job is to immediately go out in the community. They send every rig out in the community and they survey what's happened because that's the first line of defense, eyes and ears on what's going on. So if you need something right away, it's going to be very difficult to get them. They may even drive by you, and you can say, I need help. They can't do that because that's not their mission. Now, they do all end up go back to the fire station, so they will come up eventually, hopefully. But initially, their job is to survey the area. Power outage in Northridge, for us, the power was out for 2 weeks. So just be prepared. There's not a lot of young people here addicted to their phones. A lot of us elderly people addicted to our phones. No, just know that you may not have power for 2 weeks. So are we prepared to live without electricity for 2 weeks or more? Road closures, the CHP estimates that if there's a big earthquake, think what happens. If you're at work, you're at home, you're at temple, wherever you are, you're going to go home. And what happens is like what happened in the Palisades. To me, as awful as that was, it was a great visual reminder of people who will abandon their cars and the freeways will become parking lots. And the streets then will become parking lots because everybody will be flooded on the streets. And so we have to be prepared to walk wherever we're going to go. So if you go to Temple here and you live in Woodland Hills, just be prepared. You may have to walk home. And by the way, one thing I didn't know that maybe some of you did know, when you do abandon your car, you're supposed to leave the keys in it. Because those people who didn't leave their keys in the Palisades, when they were, I think, around Temescal Canyon, they brought a bulldozer in and bulldozed all the cars out of the way. Oh, one other thing I didn't know, another bonus tip. When there's a warning to evacuate versus an order to evacuate, my recommendation is when there's a warning, get out. Why? You don't want to be stuck in a traffic jam. And that's what will happen, especially if you live around here. There's going to be everybody trying to flee, and they're going to be going in all directions. And as those of you who've been through major events here, like the OJ trial or other major events, the people are crazy, and they ignore all traffic laws. So there's no stopping, there's no pausing, there's no yielding. It's mayhem. So don't be caught in the mayhem. Property damage, I'm going to show you a house. It's unlikely in Southern California that houses will pancake or buildings will pancake and flatten. It's not what happens here. It happens in other countries, but not here. In Northridge, there's only one building that did like that. It was the Northridge Meadows apartment. Unfortunately, someone died in that building, but there was so much good that came out of what we learned, why that building collapsed like that. And now we've been on a major quest to retrofit buildings here. Okay, but let me just be honest with you. Some buildings are retrofit. We've done a terrible job of retrofitting our people, meaning we are not prepared. And the only thing that can help us during an earthquake like that or an emergency is to be prepared. Fire, emergency, brush fire. So let us take this opportunity to be prepared and know that we can get together and figure out how we can get our neighbors ready and other people that we know, our loved ones, to be ready. Lack of clean water. Oh, so what it means, I didn't finish, so they don't pancake, they kind of shift off their foundation. So what happens is someone will come from FEMA or some organization, they'll slap a red sticker on your building and say, it's uninhabitable. That's where they get the 5-minute warning. So you may not think like, well, it looks fine. My house looked fine. It turned out there was several $100,000 worth of damage because it had shifted off its foundation. Lack of clean water, very important. We're going to talk a lot about water because the city will tell us, oh, the water's not drinkable. Unfortunately, most people will say, it's clear. It's not like Flint or Jackson, Mississippi, where the water was brown and black. The water's clear, I'm drinking it. Don't drink it. If they tell you that the water's not drinkable, it means it has not been through the process of filtering, and it could be very, very deadly. And if nothing else, make you very sick. You may have to live in a shelter. Red Cross shelters, as we talked about in these last fires, are everywhere. We don't often take pets. Sometimes I saw this time we did take little pets. So be prepared to either find a place for your pets or shelters that do take pets, dogs and cats. Reptiles and fish, they're on their own. And limited or no communication. This is a big one. We're going to talk about this. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Impossible. You probably haven't. But it was about the earthquake in Sumatra I was talking about. And the whole movie was about the family on vacation in Thailand. Big tsunami comes, separates the family. They spend the whole movie trying to get back together. We're going to shorten that a bit of information by making sure that we're ready and we know what to do if we cannot use our phone. And then fires are really problematic during earthquakes because there'll be a lot of them. So what do you not do during an earthquake? I start with the not because there's been so many myths about earthquakes. One, don't panic. You're going to say to me, what are you talking about? Yes, don't panic. The initial response is going to be panic. So what I'd say, give yourself about a second or two to have a little pity party, scream and yell, do what you have to do, and then bring yourself down and get going. Don't stand in the door jams. And if you do, send it to me, because I'm holding onto a door jam, and the earthquake is like this. You all of a sudden have some broken fingers because that door will slam on your fingers while you're standing in the door jam. Don't run outside. People say, I don't care what you say, dude. I'm not staying in this building. I'm out. We don't know what's outside. We don't know if there's power lines. There could be trees falling. There could be people going crazy, cars everywhere. So stay where you know you can look around and make an evaluation of where's a safe place to hide. Don't leave the room and don't be reckless. What do you do in an earthquake? Very important. If you're inside, you drop, cover, and hold on. That means get under a table, a chair, a piece of furniture, a piano, anything that's big and heavy and protect your head and neck, period. One of the things that I always tell people is when there's a little earthquake, we feel them all the time, right? Don't just stand there and go, wow, it's an earthquake. I think it's an earthquake. Get under something. Why? It could be a foreshock. A foreshock is a shock before the big one. And if there's a 9.1 earthquake, you do not want to be looking for a place to cover if you have an opportunity beforehand. So get under something. Even if people are laughing, you go, oh, look, they're hiding. Okay, good. Hopefully they'll laugh at you forever. You'll never have to experience a big earthquake, but if there is a big one, you'll be ready. If you have a wheelchair, be sure to lock it and cover your head and neck. Same with a walker, lock it, cover your head and neck. If you're in bed, protect your head and neck, put a pillow over your head, and protect your head and neck. Now that's the Red Cross. I'm gonna take my Red Cross hat off. For me, there's no way I was staying in bed at Northridge. Now what I did is I got out of bed and I stood there, like a football player, because I just wanted to have my feet on the ground. So, but again, when I was screaming, my wife was on the other side of the bed, and we were both screaming, and nothing was coming out. It was like the cartoons, it was like, and my kids slept right through it until I came screaming into their room, and I was like a banshee, and they woke up. So, but just make sure you protect yourself. Some things not to do that used to be a myth. Don't go under your bed. People think, well, my bed's a big comfortable. No, beds are not meant to withstand stuff that falls on them and then fall down. The legs are short, and they're not necessarily going to protect you. There was also this belief of the fulcrum effect. Roll off your bed and be on the floor next to your bed. If something falls, it would fall like this, therefore you're protected. We no longer think that's viable. So just stay in bed and protect your head and neck. If you're outdoors, find an open area, avoid buildings, power lines, trees, and street lights. This is obvious. If you're driving, pull over. A lot of times today with the cars, they have these newfangled electronic systems. Your electronic system will be the first indication it's an earthquake. You probably won't feel it in your car unless it's a big one, big one. And you'll see your car will start acting weirdly. If your car does that, pull over. Don't wonder what's going on. Just pull over and then wonder what's going on, because it very much could be an earthquake. The Red Cross has a 3-step plan. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed. We're going to start with a kit. How many of you have an earthquake kit? Be honest. Okay, so all the rest of you, by the end of this week, you're going to have an earthquake kit. What do you need in your kit? Water. Red Cross recommends 1 gallon of water per person per day for 3 days. I'm not a math whiz, but that's 3 gallons of water per person. Minimum. Why do I say minimum? During Northridge, my neighbor, I had water for me and there's 5 of us, but my neighbor had nothing. He had 2 little kids. His house, I'll show you what his kitchen looked like. Everything was on the kitchen floor, and he had no water, no food, no nothing. So of course we shared with him. So I make sure I get extra water, just in case. Now you don't want to also store your water in one of those single-use water bottles, that you get at Costco. You get like 200 of them for $4. Those are not good earthquake water, because plastic is thin and it leaches over time and it gets into the water. So you want like milk jugs or those 5-gallon Sparklets jugs. Those are good jugs to store water. And by the way, water does not last forever. Water lasts 5 years. So I just recently had to replace all the water in my house. I have 5 of those 5-gallon jugs all over the place. I throw them in the garden, water the grass, and refill them, just with tap water. Now, tap water is, they put fluoride in, I think fluoride, so it's pretty good. You can get tablets. Some people like tablets to put in the water that purifies it, but just make sure you have enough water. Make sure you have a first aid kit, even a basic kit with Band-Aids, Neosporin, gauze. They have ice packs that don't require ice. They look like juice boxes, and you break them, and then they're ice. They're good for a couple hours because you're going to need it. And a flashlight, make sure you have at least one flashlight, at least one that works great. friend of mine said, I went to a 99-cent store and I got 10 flashlights for $1. Do they work? I don't know, but I got a great deal. No, make sure, oh, by the way, everything we talk about, make sure you open it up and play with it. Use it before the emergency comes, because the last thing you want to do is to be fumphing around with batteries and packaging and trying to open those plastic packages is impossible anyway. So make sure you've tried everything, particularly with your flashlight. Some people don't like to leave the batteries in the flashlight because there's a trickle effect where the juice over time will go down and the batteries become ineffective. So I duct tape them to the outside of the flashlight. Now the one that's near my bed, I don't, because I don't want to be putting batteries in the flashlight when I'm trying to deal with emergency in the middle of the night. A whistle is important because we can only scream so long, and we want to make sure that if first responders do have to come get us, they can hear us. Particularly rescue dogs can hear whistles from a long way away. And then food. The key is to stay away from sweet and salty snacks, chips, candy, because they do two things. One is they give us no protein, and they make us thirsty. So they're a double whammy. Go for things like energy bars, peanut butter, Nutella, soup, canned goods like beans and other things that will give you lots of protein and easy to store and last a long time. Make sure you have warm clothes and shoes, because obviously it can get cold. Make sure you have a radio. Those of us in this crowd, of course, we remember the transistor radio. Remember, that was our stereo right there. But those things were great because literally you could throw them against the wall and they wouldn't stop. So you need a solid radio that works, that does not operate on electricity. So a battery-operated radio, because radio may be the only way you get information. Some people like those crank radios that are like solar powered. Fine. I thought I was a genius in Northridge. I had crank flashlights. They sold them where they don't require batteries. I thought, I'm a genius. I was an idiot, because you know what you're doing in an emergency with a crank flashlight? You're cranking. Instead of cleaning up or helping your family, you are cranking a flashlight or a radio, and you get like 30 seconds of light for a minute of cranking. That's bad math to me. Did you have a question, sir? You're good? Okay, good. Cash. So very important to keep in mind. Again, think through. No power means no debit cards, no credit cards. So cash is king. Meaning you want to have small bills, 1s, 5s, 10s, maybe 20s, nothing more than that, because you don't want to go buy a gallon of milk and spend $20 or $50 on a gallon of milk because they won't make change or you don't have change. So if you're going to keep money, definitely I recommend keeping money whatever you're comfortable with, because remember, you might be 2 or 3 weeks without electricity, so you're going to need cash if you need to do anything or get anything. At this point, I also think you should get a roll of quarters. Why do you need a roll of quarters? 2 reasons. Number 1, in Northridge, the phone system went down because the system was built so that if a certain amount of lines were in use, the whole system shut down. And what happened? All the payphones went off the hook, and so the whole system shut down. Nowadays, everybody has cell phones. It's likely the cell phone towers will be jammed and will not work. However, payphones might work. There's no payphones anymore. Yes, there are. Find them. Make it a chore. Make it a hunt to find where you live, where you work, where the temple is. Find a payphone, because a payphone likely will work. So that's why you need quarters, and they'll work with quarters with no electricity. The other thing is that quarters will work in vending machines. If there's vending machines, they plug in, they'll work with quarters without any electricity. So you could actually get stuff there. Yes, sir. Yes, landlines, very good point. I have a landline. Yes, I am one of those ancient people with a landline. Yes, they theoretically will work like a payphone. Now, here's the thing about landlines. All the phone companies are trying to get rid of them. They're making a major effort. I don't know why, I don't care why. They'll also do something very shady, I think, which is they'll call, you want a landline? Sure, we'll give you a VoIP landline. And what that means is it's a landline that works on the internet, which means you need electricity. No good. Don't bother with that. It's not worth. You need a landline that literally goes through the ground and to the stations. Now, again, I don't know how long they're going to be available, but I have one, and just for that reason. Of course, my aunt, my 92-year-old aunt in Connecticut, that's the only number she calls because she doesn't know what cell phones are. So, okay, Work gloves, obviously important, and cell phones. So I assume we all have cell phones. I want to show you a charger that I recommend. So this I got on Amazon. You can get them anywhere. You can get them at Walmart. You can get them any place. And it's a backup battery for your phone. You're going to need this. Even if the phones don't work, we have so much information on our phones that we want to have the phone working. Also, somebody from out of town may be able to call your phone. You never know. You don't want it off. You want to make sure it's juiced. So this is 20 bucks. It's made by Anchor, I think, but there's tons of them. And it lasts for about an extra charge and a half of my iPhone, okay? You can get small ones, mediums, large. If you came to my house, you would see chargers all over my house, everywhere. Because I know how valuable it is to have all those small devices have enough juice when there's no power. And then tools. Make sure you have at least an all-in-one tool or basic tools, hammer, screwdriver, pliers, etc. All good so far? Any questions? Good. If you wear glasses, which I do, make sure you have extra glasses everywhere in your home. So every room in my house has old glasses of mine. My briefcase has glasses. My car has glasses, because without glasses, I can't see. So make sure you have plenty of glasses. And if you have prescriptions you must take, if you take nitro, make sure you have enough supply. So if the pharmacy's not open for 2 or 3 weeks, you can get by. We talked about treats, personal hygiene items, really important to have toothpaste, toothbrush, soap, toilet paper. You remember the great toilet paper scare during the pandemic, right? Well, it woke a lot of people up, including me. I don't want to be ended up without toilet paper. So make sure you have enough toilet paper and hygiene supplies. Now this one's a big one, your personal documents. So I was just talking to my brother this weekend because his buddy lived in the Palisades. His house, he's in the Highlands. His house was obviously destroyed. He said, I got everything out, but I didn't get our passports, and I didn't get all that stuff. Yes, ma'am. Yes. They are really important. Yes, thank you for noticing that. So we have printouts, we have a website. We'll make sure we give to Joel and everybody anything you need to be passed out in terms of information. So personal documents, we recommend you take all your personal documents, put them in a Ziploc bag, and put them in your freezer. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Why? Why? Your freezer. You have a freezer? Yep. Number one, freezer is the last place to burn in a fire, inside your freezer. Doesn't mean it's not going to burn. Even more so, these fireproof safes and all that nonsense, there was not a fireproof safe that was making it through those Palisades or Eaton fires. So have it, everything in there. Now what's in there? Passports, birth certificates, insurance information. Make sure you have written down on a piece of paper insurance, your policy number and the phone number to the insurance company, because that's your first call. And you don't want to be fumphing around looking, oh my God, where's this info? Have it all in one place. Another reason, everybody in your home and your loved ones should know that your important documents are in your freezer and marked important documents, so that they know if you're not home, they grab it. If you forget, they know to grab it. Also, last thing is first responders oftentimes will go into your freezer if they come in for a house fire or an earthquake and look and see if you have important documents there. So why not? That's the best place to put it. Questions about that? Yeah. Car charger? Yes. Yes. You could use a car charger. That's definitely true. But remember this about cars. If you have a gas car, hold on one second. If you have a gas car, for those of you that remember, in the 1970s, when we had the gas, remember you had to go every other day and you had your license plate was odd or even the last number? It's going to be worse because gas stations operate on electricity, all those pumps, and no one has told me they work without electricity. So my assumption is no gas, which means whatever you've heard in the past, forget it. Right now, don't ever let your car get below half a tank of gas, ever. It's going to be a pain, but you're going to be thankful when you have to get out of town and you're not stopping for gas. That's number one. Number two, if you have a generator, which I recommend you do, and it runs on gasoline, you can always siphon the gas out of that car to operate the generators to keep you warm, keep your refrigerator on, things like that. If you have an electric vehicle, you're I don't know the word to say it without the letters that mean, SOL, but you're in trouble. So always make sure, like I have an electric car, I never let it go below 70%, even though, you say, oh, well, I don't care. Okay, you'll care if you need to get out of LA and you don't have a charge and there's no chargers. Yes, sir. Passwords, excellent. A list of your passwords on paper, highly recommend that. But keep that in a very valuable place because you don't want to lose that. I carry mine in my briefcase, and I shouldn't because it has all my passwords. But having all your passwords either with a password app, I use an app called Dashlane. You don't have to use that. You can just write them down. Having your passwords is just like having your information about your insurance. Very important. Yes, sir. Oh, the documents that I would consider essential are your passports, birth certificates, any titles to your car. I'm trying to think of what else I have in there. Oh, any art that you've had appraised, if you have art, anything that's important that you want to be able to get your hands on that you have a physical copy of. That's what you want to keep in there. Now, some people ask me, do you keep the originals or copies? It's up to you. I keep the originals. So when I use my passport, it's frozen. In about 20 seconds, it's room temperature. But do what you want. Oh, you can upload your personal documents to the cloud if you want. Getting to the cloud may be a challenge, but you go for it. Any computer, that's right. What if there's no power? I'm not trying to be pejorative, but you're right. You want it on the cloud. But in the immediate aftermath of an earthquake or a fire, there's not necessarily electricity. Yes, ma'am. She's saying that you need an earthquake kit for your car. You're jumping my presentation. Have you been through this before? You're right, and I'm going to get there. You bet. So just to finish the personal documents, this is something please do this week. Don't wait. Some things you can wait on. This is not one because you want this all in one place. And when I heard my friend Jeff Spitz did not have his passports or his birth certificates or anything for his kids, it was tragic. It was sad. And easy to do, easy to put in somewhere. And then if you have to, remember your 5-minute plan we talked about? Grab that. You know it's all in one place. And then toys and games and pet supplies. The kids, grandkids, they don't know what it's like to play without electricity. So make sure you have coloring books, comics, puzzles, things that will keep them occupied because that's going to be important because we know how annoying it can be when kids are bored. And we want to make sure while we're figuring out how to recover, they're occupied. Okay. Sure. The question was, should you send copies of your important documents to someone out of state? Yes. Anything that helps you have duplicates of anything. And again, I always want you to think about, what would I do if there's no electricity? Like a friend of mine sent me a picture from New Orleans in the French Quarter, the madness for the Super Bowl, right? First of all, I'm not going there. Second of all, but if I'm in a crowd like that, I always am thinking, okay, what do I need to think about that could happen just so I'm prepared? I don't panic. I'm not paranoid. Just be prepared. Everybody's ahead of my presentation. You know what? I'm going to go home and have a schnecken. I'll get there. You're right. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Good. Your son digitized everything and had it all ready for you while you evacuated. Yes, that's wonderful. Okay, good. Some people think too, like my wife and I both packed both our cars. And she's like, why are we taking 2 cars? Why not? Why not? Like, okay, if I have to abandon one of the cars, if I have to abandon both of them, I walk away. I don't care about the cars, but 2 ways out, because who knows if an electric car or a gas car is the best thing to have, but that's really up to you. Okay, here we go. So now we talk about kits. Yes, ma'am, you should have a kit in your home. I have a big one, like 3 boxes in my closet, and you need a place in your home that's a safe room. A safe room is a room where you can go and everybody can go where you're not going to get hurt in an earthquake. So Mine is a closet. We have a small walk-in closet, and all that can fall on you is clothes. My wife's like Imelda Marcos, so her shoes might fall on you, but that's okay. No judgment. But also, we slept in a small walk-in closet. 8 of us slept with a baby and 2 dogs. So, and after Northridge, there was, aftershocks every 5 to 8 minutes. It was nerve-wracking, but at least we were in a safe place. So, this is kind of a jumble. I don't know why, but so in your personal kit, you want to make sure you have everything in like a backpack. Backpack's good because you can put it on your back and go, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be a Ralph's bag. It could be any kind of bag that you want. It could be a bag on rollers. I tend to put my stuff on rollers because I don't want to have my wife have to lift that stuff so she can roll it. If you have many people staying with you, you might want a bigger kit like this. And then there's also a by the bed kit. This is also something you must do this week, please. That is a kit that's in a bag that's tied to your bed. And in that bag is shoes that are easy to get on. Leave the boots at home, ladies. Shoes that are easy to get on, a flashlight, and glasses, and important medicine if you need that right away. Because that may be the only thing you need right when there's an earthquake in the middle of the night. You know right there you're covered. You got shoes, because in my house, my wife's an art teacher. There's art everywhere, and some of the floors in this hallway are hardwood. What happens? All that art ends up being on the ground. There's glass everywhere. So we want to be careful. And because you're going to be first responders, you want to take care of yourself first. What happens when we're on a plane and they say, if there's oxygen, it drops first, what do you do first? You put your mask on because you're no good to anybody else if you can't function. Now make a plan. What are the likely disasters? What do people in my family need? Does someone have a wheelchair or a walker or other types of mobility issues? And if I live on the third floor of an apartment or condo, how are they getting out? And so is there alternate stairways? Is there an alternate elevator? Is there, if I'm on the second floor, do I need to invest in a chain ladder? You know, one of those things you buy. I bought one for my son because his room was the only room that had a second floor. I was petrified of this thing, but I wasn't having to get out. I made him get on it because in an emergency, he's going to have to get out of the building. So those are kind of things to consider. So the first thing is talk to your family, your neighbors. You know, we in LA, it's so funny that we go from our house to our car to our job to our car to our house. We don't talk to neighbors. Talk to your neighbors. There's the big secret. Because first of all, you want to, in an emergency, and we saw this in the fires, which to me was the most gratifying, wonderful outcome of this terrible disaster, was the community coming together. Everybody just said, whatever we can do, bake sales, or can I volunteer? The Red Cross had 13,000 people show up in Southern California to volunteer that were not Red Cross volunteers. That is mind-blowing how many people showed up to help. So be sure you talk to your family, your friends, your neighbors. Also, I want to know if there's a nurse, a doctor, a carpenter. It lives near me. So if I need help, I know, my neighbor Sue is a doctor. She can help if I have a big problem and I can't get to the hospital. Out-of-state contact, you were talking about this before. Make sure you and your family have somebody who does not live in California. San Francisco's in California, just FYI. You'd be surprised how many people, well, is San Francisco okay? We don't know. So out of California is very important, and you want to make sure that everybody has that phone number, and that person knows, by the way, that they're your out-of-state contact. For us, it's Aunt Lori in Boston. Everybody knows to call, because she may be the only person we have communication with and can let each other know where we are and how we're doing, okay? Make sure you have 2 evacuation routes. If you can't get to your home, make sure you have 2 other ways out, be it walking or other roads that will get you out. Because remember what I told you about the Palisades? That was a small fraction of what would happen in LA if there was a 7.0. Because there were, I think, 5,400 homes destroyed in the Palisades, probably a similar amount in Altadena. In a 7.0 earthquake, they estimate 1 million people without their homes. We can't handle 72,000 homeless people. I don't know what we're going to do with 1 million people, but just be prepared. The one thing we can do is be prepared. Yes, sir. Yes, don't leave your house keys. Yeah, it's fine. You know, But he said that if you leave your keys in if you have to abandon your car, let's say you're waiting, I don't know, I watched some footage over the weekend the LA Times put together, which is footage of people when the fire just broke out, before it became anything. It was like the first hour, which was fascinating to me because people were obviously fleeing, and they got on this road and it was parked. They started going in the down this way. They were going on all lanes. They didn't care if someone was coming up, which, by the way, prevented the firefighters from coming up. So don't do that. And they didn't leave their keys. His point is, don't leave your house keys, just leave your car key. And people might say, oh, my car's going to get stolen. Okay. Yes, it might get stolen. So what? If it's not going to get stolen, it's likely going to be destroyed by a bulldozer that pushes it to the side of the road. Okay. By the way, if you do see fires and you see cars on fire, particularly Teslas, and I will take full responsibility, they are an absolute environmental disaster. And they don't even know how to measure what happened in Palisades and Eaton when those electric vehicles burn, because the lithium batteries are extremely toxic when they burn. So be careful, wear a mask if you happen to see or be around smoke from those kind of fires. And then have 2 places to meet. So if you can't get to your home, make sure everybody knows, okay, if I can't get home, we're going to Notre Dame High School, and if not there, I'm going to Fire Station 88. That's mine. You have your own for you, 2 places specifically, so you can go and meet your family and be able to connect with your loved ones. And then practice. We recommend twice a year. Let's be realistic. Once a year is good enough. We talked about 2 exits. Make sure each room people sleep in have 2 exits, a window and a door, or either or. It's hard to see, but this is what my neighbor's kitchen looked like. Why? He did not child-proof his cabinets. You're going to say, oh, I haven't had kids in my house for years. Child-proofing your cabinets can be the difference between having a swift recovery and having a nightmare, because in an earthquake and your cabinets open, everything would be on the floor broken. Glassware, dishware, food, everything everywhere. In this case, everything was on the floor, nothing was usable. So they cost 49 cents, those little clips. Does my wife like them? No, she hates them. But you know what? When there's an earthquake, she's pretty happy that not everything is all over the floor. Also, if you have big furniture, if you have a big credenza, or you have a big, heirloom that you love in your house, secure it to the wall. Because the last thing you want is to be hit by or have someone hit by a large piece of furniture that falls over, or have a large piece of furniture fall over and block your doorway, which happens a lot. So secure it to the wall. Oh, I'm not putting nails in my grandmother's armoire. Okay, then get super Velcro. You can go to Home Depot or Lowe's and get this what's super Velcro, and it's like a very strong, extra strength Velcro, and that will help keep most things in place. Yes? Yeah. Sorry to laugh, but it's true. So she said that her husband had bolted her bookcase to the wall, and in the Northridge earthquake, the bookcase came down with the bolts and everything. Well, make sure you go into a stud, because that is the only... By the way, it still could happen, but hopefully you weren't anywhere near it. The holes in the bookcase came right off. Yeah, so be sure you get someone who knows what they're doing to secure your furniture. Okay. Now be informed. These are the radio stations that will broadcast important information. Make sure you know them, have them. Put your radio on one of those stations. KNX, 1070, KFI. If you don't have reverse 911, how many know what reverse 911 is? Okay. It's amazing. Colleges across the country now, every one of them must have this. And this is if there's an emergency, they will text or email or call anybody who signs up. In the case of LA, alert LA County and LA City, they will contact you directly if A, you have electricity, B, if your phone is able to accept email or text. So sign up for sure to both of those. In the Maui fires, they had a system like this, and it worked except for most people didn't know about it. As here, nobody knows about it, which is insane and tragic and awful and my fault. Number 2 is a lot of people didn't have cell service, so they didn't get the message to get out. So they were stuck in the Maui fires. I don't know what happened in Palisades. We haven't had a debrief on what the emergency system did to those people. I know there was some confusion because you could hear they recorded the firefighters talking when the fire first broke out. Remember I told you I watched the first hour? They were not evacuating. When at time, looking back, of course, who knew? They should have evacuated everybody. Just get out. Why not? But we get upset. Oh, I evacuated and nothing happened. Well, hopefully these fires will prove to us better to be safe than sorry. Okay? If you have to evacuate for a day or an hour or a couple of days, it's better than being there and stuck. And if you ever want proof that it works, just listen to the chilling account when people were stuck on Temescal Canyon in a parking, traffic jam, and the firefighters and police officers came by and said, get out of your car and walk now. Okay, there wasn't any like, oh, hey, how you feeling? You want a little coffee? No, it was get out and get out of this canyon because the fires are coming. So let's not wait till we get to that point. And then download the Red Cross apps. We have some really great apps, an emergency app that's wonderful. We have an earthquake app, not so good, but the earthquake app, there's 2 apps you must get. Again, these are assignments I'm coming to check on Sunday. MyShake. MyShake is an app that was created by the state of California, Washington, and Oregon to alert earthquakes. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about, can you really predict when an earthquake's coming? All I know is when we had the big tropical storm last year, the great 80-year tropical storm, and there was an earthquake that same day, my wife and I were doing a jigsaw puzzle, and the phones started beeping, get out, earthquake, earthquake, beware. And we looked at each other and said, what is that? And sure enough, 10, 15 seconds later, earthquake. So I thought, oh my gosh, they finally figured it out. We got it. And by the way, they hope that to give us a 60-second warning. A 60-second warning is a lifetime. And if you get a warning like that on the MyShake app, heed the warning. Don't just ignore it and say, it's my phone. So MyShake is one. The other one is Watch Duty. Watch Duty is an app that came out of nowhere. I only found out about it because my daughter told me, Dad, you got to get Watch Duty. Watch Duty is a nonprofit app that basically was the go-to for the fires as to what was going on. It was just easy to operate, easy to follow. Of course, the notifications were a heart attack every 4 minutes, but that's a different issue, because it was like, warning, warning, evacuate, evacuate. And we were darn close to where you were about to evacuate, so we were watching it closely. But Watch Duty is a very helpful app. Know where your nearest 2 police station, fire station, hospitals are. Very important, because Encino Hospital could be overrun with patients. It could be shut down because it got hit bad, where Sherman Oaks Hospital is empty or there's not a lot of people there. So make sure you know where the 2 nearest hospitals, police stations, and fire stations. Fire stations often can have information, sandbags, and other supplies you might need. So just know where they are. Know how to shut off the water, gas, and electric in your home or your apartment, condo, wherever you live. If you live in one of those places, make sure the manager shows you. Show me how to do it. I want to see it with my own eyes, because you may be the only person that knows how to do that. And during an emergency like an earthquake, you want to shut off the water, because if they say the water's not drinkable, not if they don't say that, but if they say the water, shut off the water. Electrical, you only shut off if you suspect there's going to be some sort of problem. Of course, in these fires, they said shut off your electrical and your gas. Most places have an automatic gas shutoff. If you don't have one, make sure you have a tool that you can shut off the gas into your building. Consider earthquake insurance. I don't talk too much about this because it's really a personal matter. For me personally, I get earthquake insurance to cover the equity in my home. If I have equity, I recommend you get earthquake insurance. Why? Because if your house is uninhabitable, it means you're going to have to rebuild. And regular homeowners insurance does not cover earthquakes. I don't know why they don't mandate it in California. It's really a crime. But you want to have earthquake insurance if you have equity, because if you have enough equity, you want to make sure you're protecting that equity so that you'll get paid off and be able to either rebuild or walk away. Of course, California used to be a no-recourse state. It is no longer a no-recourse state, meaning you used to be able to walk away from your mortgage and the bank could not come after you. Under the Bush administration, they changed that. Now the banks can come after you. However, practically, if there's thousands of people walking away from their mortgage, there's not much they can do. But just be prepared. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yeah. Good question. So she was saying if you get the warning from MyShake and you're in your car, what I recommend is pulling over immediately, safely, to the side of the road, wherever you are, and just wait it out. because you don't want to be on the freeway or the street or anywhere driving if there's an earthquake, because not so much what will happen to you, but remember, human nature. Everybody's going to panic and be crazy, out of their mind, nutsy. Don't you be that, because that way you will have your head about you and know, okay, I know what this is, and I know what to do. Okay. She's asked if you have your bag, which we're going to talk about now, about, you have your go bag and you have your important stuff. You want to hide it so that if there's a break-in, nobody can get it. Okay. I can't speak to the criminal element of what happens in this, but I can speak to this. Number one, another assignment. I'm sorry, you didn't know. Joel didn't tell you had all these homework assignments. Sorry. Pack a go bag. What's a go bag? It's a suitcase, or it could be, I don't care if it's a Ralph's bag, that has an outfit for everybody in your home. That means a hat, shirt, sweatshirt, pants, underpants, socks, shoes, okay? For everybody in your home, and have it in a suitcase and just put it in a closet. Put it somewhere where you know where it is, and put it somewhere so that if you have that 5-minute warning, remember we talked about at the beginning, you're already packed and ready to go. Now you can also throw in there, like my wife throws in toiletry bags, so there's toothpaste, toothbrush, things like that. Great. Anything you would need on a daily basis if you had to live in a shelter, you want in that bag. And make sure that bag is either on rollers or it's liftable. Because the bag I had originally, my wife could never lift this bag, and if I'm not home, I can't expect her to do that, so I put it on wheels. Everything's on wheels, she could roll it out of the house. Number two, during that great hurricane that we had here, which wasn't really a hurricane, but okay, we were told to evacuate, and I found out, the cobbler's son, I wasn't ready enough to leave in 5 minutes, because I don't care about anything in my house. My wife does. So therefore, I have to care about things in my house. So I went through with her, especially after this last one, because we were ready this time. But I marked everything that she wants to take in an emergency. Her mother's jewelry, artwork, certain pieces of art the kids made. Whatever she wanted, I took a picture of it, and I have it on a piece of paper. And I recommend you do that, so that if you have to get out and you have 5 minutes, there's stuff that matters to you, you know where it is. You don't have to wonder, I wonder, do I want, nah, yes, because that's not what you want to do in those 5 minutes. So be prepared in advance. Now, what she did, which I thought was brilliant, she keeps all her best jewelry that she wants, that her mother gave her and whatever, in her to-go bag. Brilliant. So in the bag that's packed with clothes, she keeps her jewelry, so she doesn't have to worry about, because that's really important to her, the stuff her mother and grandmother gave her, it's in that bag already, and if she wants to use it, she just goes in the bag. Brilliant. Questions? Any other questions about that? Oh, ice contact. Does anyone know what ice is? No one? In case of emergency, make sure you have someone in your phone, your husband, your wife, your daughter, your friend, who is your emergency contact. And like my wife's name is Karen Ice Binkow. Because two things. One, if God forbid you collapse, and the first responders will take your phone, and if they can unlock your phone, either by face or by your fingerprint, they'll look up ice. And they'll call her and say, hey, your husband's here on the ground. You want to come get him? Or whatever. So this ice is a good contact, okay? Ice is a good thing to have somebody in your home. You got one? Good. So that is earthquake preparedness. Any questions before we move on to house fires? Yes? Yes? She had a camping lantern in the recent fires with no power. That was great. There's a lot of things you can get. The thing I love the most, I'm going to give you this just because you're here, because I love you. There's these light bulbs, and it's made by a company called Jax, J-A-X. And these light bulbs go into a lamp. They're regular light bulbs, LED, and if there's a power outage, they stay on. And you can unscrew them, and if you put your thumb on the bottom, it's like a flashlight. So these things are a game changer because they work in an emergency for 4 hours, and you'd never know it. The other thing that I recommend is on Amazon, they sell these lights. I can't even tell you the company, but make sure you have lights in your home that are earthquake-proof, meaning when the power goes out, they go on. So if you come to my house, every room will be lit up by these night lights because they're motion sensor too. So you walk by them, they light up the room, And then when you walk by, they turn off, and then with no power, and you can take them off the cradle and use them as a flashlight. Okay, let's quickly talk about home fires. Stay in the kitchen when you cook. I know it's hard because you're cooking something that's simmering all day, but stay nearby so you always can know. A lot of house fires start with things in the kitchen. Candles. I hate candles. My wife likes candles, so we love candles. Candles are very dangerous. You light a candle, it's fine, but never leave the room when a candle is burning. Even if you say, I'm going to take a quick pee, I'm going to go over the... Don't blow out the candle, because a small earthquake can cause a candle to start your whole place on fire before you even know it. Plus, we don't know where these candles are made. My daughter had lived in Santa Monica. She had a candle. She loved it. She put it on the end of her bed. She took a shower. It was on a nightstand, it exploded and started her bed on fire. She didn't have a fire extinguisher, which is a different story, but she was smart enough to take a wet towel and put out the fire. So be careful with candles because we don't know where it is. Make sure you have a fire extinguisher. If you can, even the $19 ones they sell that are single use, get them. But look at the instructions because you can't practice on those. Once you use them, they're done. So look how you pull the pin, how you squeeze it, and you point it at the base of the fire. It could be a game changer. Don't overload plugs like this. It's definitely not a good idea. Make sure you have a smoke alarm in every room where somebody is sleeping. If you have a grandchild that sleeps in your living room, make sure you have a smoke alarm in there because we need the smoke alarms to let us know when the smoke is coming. Remember, it's not the flames that get you, it's the smoke. In California, we are blessed that we can no longer buy smoke alarms that have replaceable batteries. Nowadays, when you buy a smoke alarm in California, it's a 10-year lithium battery that's self-encased. You cannot take the battery out. You take the whole unit in 10 years and replace it. It's great. Now, if you have battery-operated smoke alarms, they still work, but you'll hear the beeping. You'd be surprised when we go out on these fire campaigns and when people say, well, beeping means it's working, right? No, it means you need to replace the battery. That's wonderful. So the DWP will come out and change, replace, and check your fire alarms and your CO2 alarms. Wonderful. If there's a fire, get out, stay out, and call 911. Very simple. Get out, stay out, call 911. We had a case recently in Inglewood. An elderly couple and their adult son were living in a home. There was a fire in the middle of the night. The father and the son came out. The mother did not make it out. The son went back in, and neither he nor the mother came out. Tragic, horrible, terrible. If you call 911 and say there's a fire, they will be there in a hurry because firefighters spend their whole lives, they want to be firefighters, and they do that the least on the job. Mostly they do other stuff. So call 911, tell them there's a house fire and people or pets are inside, they'll be there as quickly as they can, and they're better equipped to get people out. Yes? Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. That's a great point, and also relates to these fires. She said that her husband's in a wheelchair, and so they were told to put a sign in the window that someone's in a wheelchair in this home. That's great. I didn't realize this, but also if you have to abandon your house in a fire, you're supposed to put a sign in the window with your phone number. And if there's anything special, they should know about it so they could actually call you or contact you if they need to get a hold of you. And you're supposed to leave your front door unlocked. Didn't know that either. So that the firefighters can get into your home if they need to get in the backyard for putting out fires. Okay, so we're getting near the end here. Practice your fire plan. One thing to keep in mind, one thing I do is when I travel and I go into a hotel, the first thing I do when I put the key in the door is I look both ways. Where's the exit? Because if I'm in a hotel and I don't know where I am, I want to know how to get out. And again, you're going to stay low when you get out, and you're going to be on the floor, and you're not going to know, oh, is there an exit? Oh, there's an exit sign. So in advance, again, not paranoia, just preparation. Where's the exit sign? It's here, it's there, I know where I'm going. Things like that. Yep, and on a plane, when they say know where the exit row is, make sure you do know where the exit row is, but also count the rows. Why? Because most airlines, up until the last couple of weeks, when there's airline disasters, they are Smoke in the cabin. So you may know, oh, I know this. I know the exit row's up there. Count the rows, because as people are panicking, you're going to know it's 6 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm out, or backwards behind you too. Hey, any last questions? We were going to do a hands-only CPR. I guess we ran out of time. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, and good luck. Oh, one last plug. We do these for any group of 20 or more. So school groups, church groups, synagogue groups, work groups, friend groups. I did this for my daughter and her friends, which was wonderful, except for one big mistake. I did it for all of them. They're all 30-something. They're new parents and all that. And after the presentation, they said, we know what we're going to do. We're coming to your house. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much.